has been swinging a golf club since about the time she could walk. She wanted to be just like her daddy. And as she grew, she took lessons, and she's played in several tournaments, and she's gotten quite good. So good, in fact, that as a 13-year-old high school freshman, she made it onto the varsity team. And she is consistently coming in first and second place. The thing is, the seniors on the team won't give her the time of day. They didn't make it onto the varsity team as freshmen, so why should she? And instead of encouraging and supporting one of their best players who keeps bringing the team's average score down, it's golf, so down is good, they snub her and act like she's not one of them. Have you ever been snubbed like that? You are in the place where you are pretty sure you are supposed to be, and yet others go out of their way to make sure you feel very unwelcome. You've jumped through every hoop, cut through all the red tape, and still you aren't granted admission. Sometimes being alone in a crowd can be the loneliest place to be, especially when it's supposed to be your crowd and you have nowhere else to go. Senator John McCain wrote in his book, Restless Wave, about a time when he and Lindsey Graham were in Iraq, and there is going to be a swearing-in ceremony for soldiers who were not yet citizens. Some of them had entered the U.S. illegally, but then they enlisted, and they were ready to serve. The day before they were to become U.S. citizens, 2 soldiers were killed in action.
Oh, yeah.
And McCain wrote that he wishes that every American who criticizes immigrants as being lazy or criminals or drain on our resources could have been there to witness the sacrifice these men and women were willing to make. Because he believed that as a nation, we are more alike than we are different. In holding our ideals that we are all born equally and in freedom and liberty for all. With those beliefs, we become united as one. But I think sometimes we have this instinct to divide ourselves, to figure out who is in and who's out, whether it's based on what grade someone is in, what country someone is born in, or what traditions someone holds to. It's not that we're trying to be mean. It's just that we have these ideas in our head of how things are supposed to be. And we're afraid that if we bend, we will break. And we fear what we may lose instead of anticipating what we may gain. The Pharisees were like this. Now, the Pharisees were not at all villains. Sometimes they're made out to be villains, but they weren't. They weren't antagonistic toward Jesus just for the sake of being antagonistic. They just really appreciated having things black and white, knowing what was right and what was wrong. They felt comfortable with knowing expectations and what was acceptable and appropriate and what wasn't. Maybe some of us can relate to that. They valued traditions and laws because they remembered that when their ancestors didn't, seemed to be when they lost favor with God. So the Pharisees were sort of like hall monitors for the Jewish people. But truth be told, I think sometimes they enjoyed that power a little bit more than they needed to. Well, in Mark's Gospel today, the Pharisees are noticing that Jesus' disciples are not following the long-standing Jewish protocol of washing their hands and their food before eating their bread. And you know what? I can kind of appreciate that because germs, right? But the problem was with the reasons why the Pharisees were so concerned about this. It wasn't in order to be helpful and bring them water to wash with. But the Pharisees' concern stemmed from that same place that those senior girls looked down on Erica because she's only a freshman. And that same place that some look at immigrants as not being worthy to be here. The Pharisees are trying to find a way to show that they are better and more righteous and more deserving and more worthy than Jesus' ragtag group of disciples. Now, these religious ceremonial washings that the Pharisees are referring to, they weren't laws found in the Torah. They were oral religious traditions. So if we look at the word religion, it comes from a Latin word, religiare, I think I'm saying that right, or religio, which means to tie or to bind. So religion is supposed to tie us together. But the Pharisees were using it to separate, to divide who does from who doesn't, who's in from who's out, and to find ways to believe that they were superior to others. And Jesus points out that when we use our religion to separate ourselves from others, we are separating ourselves from God. Because religion is supposed to bring us together, not tear us apart. In the letter from James that we read, we are reminded that if we believe ourselves to be religious, but do not watch our words or our actions, if we don't care for those in need, our religion is worthless. I've seen this far too many times. When someone who comes out to their family as being LGBTQ in the name of religion is then ostracized by them and told that they are no better than murderers. I heard another story of that just last week. I've seen this when people of color share their experiences of injustice, and in the name of religion, they are told to be silent and that they are exaggerating and their loyalty is questioned. I've seen this far too many times when fellow human beings, are fleeing their homeland, leaving everything behind because it is not safe, and in the name of religion are turned away and told they are not worthy. I'm sure together we could come up with 100 more ways when religion has been misused. But as the body of Christ, Jesus calls us to be both spiritual and religious. Christ connects us as beloved children of God. None more so than another. We are bound together despite our differences, and when one of us hurts, we all hurt. And so we strive to be generous stewards of the word, in James's words. Welcoming, including, embracing, celebrating one another. Because in our religion, as Lutheran Christians, we know that we have been called to love one another as we have been loved. We know that we have been saved with the most amazing grace, and so we share it with that love and with that grace, with the water and word and wine and bread. We are connected, tied together, bound to one another, bound to God as one.